We are live here on the Blue Bloods Coaches Corner edition, man, and it is a good day for my co-host over here, my guy Coach Fred, taking control of the SWAC West with a huge win over Southern, a dominant win, man. Coach, it was a good weekend, wasn't it?
Good weekend, good beginning of the week. And as my boy Hannibal used to say, as we all watched growing up, I love it when a plan comes together.
Man, I'll be honest, Coach. We talked about the game. I had you guys winning by double digits, but there was a time where it was like 40 to what, like 14 or something crazy like that. I was like, what is? I mean, it just got out of hand, Coach. I know. Listen, first of all, Montario, big game this weekend as well. But Coach, you guys had the FCS National Defensive Player of the Week this week. Had FCS stats perform. Gary Reason, Super Bowl champ,
Super Bowl
visit
champ.
today. What was that experience like for you, man? And talk about your guy, man, National Player of the Week this week.
Man, King was real big for us, man. But to speak on Mr. Reasons coming to campus, knowing who he is and who he played along with, and him naming off, Harry Carson, that giant defense, Bill Parcells, a young Bill Belichick, and Lawrence Taylor, and then our kids actually knowing who a couple of those people were was really cool. Even though they may not have known who Mr. Reasons were, they knew the people that he played with. He came out rocking a Super Bowl ring. It was a great deal, man. And King did nothing but, he deserved it. He set the tone for the game early, and he just kept us going, man. Even when it fell into like a little lull, boom, I got y'all, 90-yard pick six. Let's get this thing going. And it's like the defense is saying the shades on in the club. That's how we playing it. So I got my shades on representing our defense. We're a defensive-minded team. And those guys, set the tone early, and offensively, we just fell in behind them.
Coach, I mean, we'll start with this game. No better place to start. 31 unanswered points after that 7-0 start for Southern. And really and truly, Coach, I'll be honest, I was watching the game. Defense came out strong. The muff punt had me stressing there for a bit as I was sitting here. I was like, this is how Southern has won games throughout the season. Even when they don't play well, the other team makes those mistakes, or Southern forces them into mistakes, and it keeps them in the game. But I loved how your team never blinked. It was like, okay, we're down 7-0. Now it's time to get back to work. Jarvion, 128 on the ground, Coach. Aaron Allen, again, 263, 3 touchdowns. We talked about Leachman. Malachi Bailey, though, Coach, 6 tackles, 4.5 for loss, 2.5 sacks. I think he remembered that people were sleeping on him for all SWAC in the preseason.
That and pregame got a little testy. And, he's one of those guys that's, a leader on the defense and the team. And he was like, okay, this how we playing it. And it just kind of went from there. So, it's one of those deals where the defense, again, just set the tone. And those guys up front after the muff punt, because like you said, we had emphasized all week, man, that Southern's a good ball club, but a lot of games have been handed to them. And if we don't do that, let's just see what happens. If we don't give them the ball, if we don't give them the game with silly turnovers and silly penalties, let's see what happens at the end. And after that, defense went out, had a chance to get off the field, end up giving up 7 on that. We come back, we get 3, and then the King show started, and it was just, snowball behind that, man, and it just went from there.
I mean, I know Southern's offense hasn't been good this year. We talked about that leading up to this game, even though you couldn't say much because it was your opponent. 263 total yards allowed for Alcorn, man. Another dominant performance. Over 430 offensive yards for you guys, man. I know it was a different tone in that offensive meeting room this week. But Coach, I was told we did not do a good job of explaining the clinching scenarios last week for the SWAC West. Apparently, we left some details out because we were talking about what would happen if you guys didn't win out and things. Obviously, Alcorn wins the final 2 games. You guys are headed to Tallahassee to take on FAMU for the SWAC championship. Now, The other scenarios are, guys, because I had people really pissed that we didn't talk about it. If Alcorn loses a game and PV wins out, PV goes to the SWAC championship. That's how PV can get in. If Alcorn loses both games, Southern needs to win out, and Southern would go to the SWAC championship. Or if PV beats Southern, of course, they would go to the SWAC championship if Alcorn lost both games. But that's the scenarios, guys. Grambling virtually eliminated, losing to Alabama State this past weekend. So it's down to Southern, Alcorn, PV. Alcorn's the only team that is the only team that controls their own destiny. Southern needs a lot of help. Alcorn has to lose both games. I don't personally see that happening. And Alcorn can clinch the West this weekend with a Southern win over PV. Coach, should I hit all the points?
Yes. So Saturday is going to be a big day for a lot of programs. Mathematically, Grambling still has, I don't know if I can get it that close. Mathematically, they still have an opportunity. Southern and PV both are still alive. So that game is really important, for both programs. Southern wins that, and they're still alive. Southern drops that, pretty much Katie by the door. PV wins, they're still alive. PV loses, we win Sunday. I'm back with my flask. I'm back with my cigar.
With a hat.
We're doing it again on Monday with the East hat, no doubt. I mean, the West hat. We're doing it again on Monday. So it's still, several teams mathematically, but realistically, 3 teams.
Yeah, I mean, what Grambling would have to root for, like a 4-way tie, and then potentially have to. I don't even know if they would win the 4-way tie. So
they would have to have all that happen, and then it would be a deal of where they would have to, at the end of the day, have more points than us. And, it would just be the head-to-head with Alabama State. It would just be a whole funky scenario. Yeah,
chaos is what that would be, guys. Pretty much it's a 4-way coin flip at that point. But we're gonna stick with Southern PV and Alcorn in this scenario because I'm not going through all the SWAC math to figure out who would win that one. And obviously, FAMU with the win this weekend over Alabama A&M will host the SWAC championship.
Solidified home field. Yep.
Regardless. So hey, Bragg is going to be. Listen, I know people listening are from FCS, from other SWAC teams potentially. I got some FAMU people listening. If you can be in Bragg on the first weekend of December, get to Bragg because it's going to be electric.
It's gonna be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy.
I'm telling you, man. I can't wait.
I'm part of the chaos. Hopefully, we're part of the chaos.
Especially being a Florida boy, I know that would be big for you to go win a SWAC championship in your home state, man.
That'd be big for me and bad for my pockets. After those little comp tickets, man, I'd be out, buying a lot of tickets at that point. But, if that's the case, man, I'll buy it. Come on up. Whole Polk County, whole Hillsborough County. Come on, family. Let's do it.
Coach, we do have, before we get into the games of the week, another ticket was punched this weekend. The first clinch ticket, the first auto bid secured for the FCS playoffs. Furman clinched that against Chattanooga this weekend, 17-14 win. Coach, 15th SoCon title in school history, 12 consecutive conference wins now for the Paladins. Coach, they did this without Tyler Huff, left in the first half with a shoulder injury. They had enough to get it done, and they held the Mocs scoreless over the final 9 minutes of the game. Coach, your thoughts on Furman clinching the first spot in the FCS playoffs this weekend?
Congratulations to them. As I'm trying to get back to my notes, and that was one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you've been well-rounded in this for a long time. Do you think the psyche part of it for the other teams come into play when it gets tight, like, oh man, here we go again, we can't, it's just what they do, they just win this conference? Do you think that's become part of the thought process for those teams in that conference when it comes down to Furman?
No, because this is the first time in a little while they've won it. Because, Coach, we talked in the preseason, every year, if you're voted favorite, It's almost like a curse.
You said that at the beginning. Yes.
Yeah, it's almost a curse. And the fact that Furman was able to kind of overcome that that stigma almost to that. And coach, let's just be honest, they didn't just roll through the conference. They faced a tough Western Carolina team on the road. They had to go on the road at Chattanooga, win with a backup quarterback who hasn't played all year. They faced injuries. They faced they had a tough FBS game with South Carolina, came out of that pretty healthy. They struggled against some teams that I thought they were better than on paper. But
yes.
I like what Timothy said, just scraped and clawed their way to a win. At the end of the day, yes, it's not always pretty. You don't have the South Dakota State. So not everyone can be South Dakota State and beat everyone by 14, 20, 30 in these top 10 matchups. Sometimes you just got to go out there and win. It might not be pretty. Furman, and this is why, coach, I talked about this a little bit last week. This is why they're dangerous to me in the playoffs. One, they're physical on the lines of scrimmage. They have a downhill running back and experienced quarterback if he can get back healthy. This is a team that is not afraid to play and win an ugly game. And in the playoffs, there's a lot of those ugly games because of the weather, because it's late in the season, everyone's banged up. If you can specialize in winning when you don't play your best game and when it's an ugly, low-scoring game, you have the advantage, and that's why Furman is scary in the postseason.
And their kids, are in the moment. And, when you look back at the numbers, they were outgained by almost 100 yards. They tied the turnover battle. Time of possession wasn't in their favor. Everything about this should have went the other way. But you've got a program, I think, that really believes, and a program that was just kind of, I won't say confident, but not as confident as the people they were facing.
Yeah, and I like Timothy's comment. Man, going to Montana State in December is a death sentence. If they can find a way to lock up the number 2 seed
and be at home for a little bit,
and be at home until the end, because they'll be the highest seed on that side of the bracket
to stay alive.
Everyone's got to come to North Carolina or South Carolina. Then that's huge,
because the Dakotas, I don't know who wants to go up there.
Nobody, because North Dakota
real confidence.
Because North Dakota State will probably host a first-round game because of the money, obviously.
Then they got to hit the road.
Then they got to hit the road. So there's no dome matchups other than Idaho.
Outside.
Yeah, other than Idaho, you're going to be outside. Montana's outside. South Dakota State's outside. Montana State's outside. It's going to be an issue if you got to go to one of those places. So if Furman can get the 2 seed, that's huge, because my worry is if they get stuck with the 3 or 4, they got to go to Brookings. They got to go to Bozeman. They have to go to Missoula. It's a different conversation. Yeah, it's a whole different conversation. But, Coach, shifting to the obvious game of the week, South Dakota State, 5 consecutive wins over North Dakota State, extends their 23-game winning streak, which is one of the longest in FCS history.
23.
Man, just dominant again, Coach. I mean, I'm running out of adjectives, and I tweeted it out again. I've said it for 3 weeks. The gap between South Dakota State and the rest of the country just continues to grow. 33-16 win over the Bison. When this was probably the worst game I've seen South Dakota State play in the past 5 games, which is just insane to think about, that you go knock off the number 11 team on the country playing C+ football. Coach, your takeaways from South Dakota State's win over North Dakota State?
Like you said, it was an ugly win, and they made it look easy. And when you go back and again, you go look at the numbers, they're balanced, man. They're pretty balanced. So I think we talked about it last week. What are you going to take away from them? And are you willing to stick with it? Because they've shown they can do it either way, through the air, on the ground. They won the turnover battle. It's just one of those things where this might have been the week that they were down to be caught. Now, what happens when they go back and look at this and they're not happy with their performance? They tighten things up during the week, heading into the playoffs. Again, this is a scary situation because, again, you're looking at a balanced football team who's playing with a lot of confidence.
Yeah. I mean, look, Gronowski was efficient. 12 and 19 for 213, 2 touchdowns. Jaden Yonke had an outstanding game. I mean, that 46-yard touchdown really kind of broke the game open for them in the second quarter. Isaiah Davis over 100 rushing yards again. But, Coach, I think the storyline was the defense.
Three takeaways.
3 turnovers, including 2 interceptions in the second half that they were able to kind of take the momentum with. Jason Freeman had a ridiculous game, 12 tackles and interception. It was just another dominant performance. They held North Dakota State to 7 points in the second half. And like you said, they're so balanced offensively in the way they attack. But I also think as a team, they're just so well balanced as a team. If the offense is kind of struggling, the defense is good enough to win the game for you. They can win that. They can win that 10-6 game. They can win that 14-7 game. But also, if the defense allows some points, the offense is good enough to take advantage of that, and they can go put up 30 or 40 points in a potential shootout. So that the fact that they can win games in so many different ways, and also special teams isn't an issue for them, really. They got good special teams. It's like when you're looking at this team, Coach, where's the weakness? I think it's probably pass rusher. But the problem is no one's been able to take advantage of that because their secondary is so good.
I think what you have to do with them, and I touched on it last show when we were talking about the matchup, you've got to be able to get up on them, man, and get up 2 scores and then try and control it. Because tit for tat, like you said, they can win a shootout. They get up on you a couple scores, they can squeeze you out. You know, it's one of those deals where you've got to figure out how to steal some points to get ahead, whether it be special teams wise, capitalize on a turnover, which they don't really do. Just catch them down for a quarter, get yourself some breathing room, slow the game down, and let the timing rules take over. But they're not turning it over. They're making you turn it over. And like you said, they're efficient on special teams. The quarterback is really efficient. He knows what to do when they have a lead. He knows what to do when they're behind. So, you know, again, complete team. But as we say, you know, any given day, somebody can be caught. I just don't know how they get caught. And it'll be interesting to see if they get caught, how they got caught.
You know, Coach, we're sitting here now. South Dakota State has 4 ranked wins, 2 wins over top 10 opponents. Right now, and that in 2 top 5 wins technically are those top 10 wins, because South Dakota and Montana State are both top 5 at the time. They have one of the strongest resumes. And Coach, they play Youngstown State next week, who's a top 20 team in the FCS, on the road too. You might end the season going into postseason play 5 ranked wins. You know, you look at a top ranked team who's undefeated, who's been tested like that. God, it's terrifying.
The road means nothing to them. No. You know, sometimes teams tend to, you know, spit and sputter on the road, but the road means nothing to them. You know, so again, you don't want to say a team's not beatable, but right now they are peaking at the right time.
Coach, the fact I'm having to have this conversation is insane. But before we move on, North Dakota State sitting at 6-3. 3-3 in conference. And as Dave pointed out in the chat, this is the first time the Bison have lost to all 3 Dakota schools in the same year in over 20 years.
That's crazy.
Now, I want to point this out. Southern Illinois next week, top 15 team at home. And then they got to travel to Northern Iowa, who's also a top 20 team. If the Bison lose out, and they're sitting at 6-5. They're obviously going to miss the playoff at 6-5. Is Ince gone?
No. And I know this is a "what have you done for me lately" business, but no. Who are you going to get?
I mean, right now, I think North Dakota State probably have their pick of whoever they want. I mean, that Coach, can you name a?
I get that part, but I get that part. You're right. They'll have 500 resumes within 5 minutes of posting that job. I get it. But who are you, if you don't stay in-house, who are you going to get that knows that program, been a part of that program, somebody that's been inside those walls have got to be able to step in and say, hey, nah, you know, we called a South Dakota State team who's just rolling at the time, rolling right now. And you have those years, those peaks and valleys, man. They haven't completely fell off. Even if they go 6-5, they still are who they are as a program. Now, if he backs this thing up next year with the same thing, I get it. But this year, I don't know, because last year, where were they?
In the national championship.
And I get it. It's a what have you done for me lately business. But, I mean, 1 year removed from the national championship game and people are saying it's time to go, man. I think, man, you talked about it earlier off camera, man. This is it's a crazy business, man.
I mean, I'm with you. I can't, because there's real talk that if he loses those 2 games, they might make a move. Like, that's the and Coach, I mean, and Dave put in there because that was the name I was thinking too. And this is going to sound crazy because you don't see this a lot. I think they would go get Vegan from Montana State.
Would he take it?
He was at NDSU. He has ties to the program. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he just signed an extension, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what his salary is, but I mean, they would have to beat the salary, obviously. But it's just
but outside the box, though.
Is that a lateral move? That would be my question. Right now, is that a lateral move?
Because of what you're building, where you're at.
That's what I was thinking. I mean,
now if they lock you into some crazy amount of years, I get it, you know, but it can't be for a 3 with an option on 4 type thing.
Because you got to think, okay, he's from North Dakota. Vegan is. He played at North Dakota State as a tight end in the 90s. He was at tight end when I was born back in 96. Was his junior year. He GA'd at North Dakota State. He was the tight end coach in 01, QB coach in 02, running back coach in 03, QB coach from 04 to 08, was the OC from 09 to 13 when they were winning those titles, Coach. Went to Wyoming with Bowl when he left North Dakota State and was hired from Wyoming to go to Montana State. So he was at North Dakota State, Coach, from 1993 to 2013 and is from Buxton, North Dakota.
I'm sure he's had enough of it, you know.
You would imagine, but also, you know, I don't know if anyone's asked him. I mean, that also could be his dream job.
Yeah, I get that. If that's the case, you know, I get that. But then I would also, like you said, lateral move. And then in my mind as a coach, like this guy that I'm coming in to replace was just in the national championship game. And now I'm sitting in his office. Yeah. If I miss a beat 2 years in a row, what happens now? You know what I mean? But you know, I'm sure that buyout would be something that, you know, hey, you gonna give me this to walk away? Okay, cool. But I mean, you know, you don't think about that in the moment, but that would be tough for me just from the outside looking in, just because of what you got going where you are right now.
I'm with you. And shout out to Timothy for looking it up. Ince is making up over 300K and Vegan's in the low 200s right now. So you're looking at maybe what, a 100 to 150K increase per year. Plus, I would assume there's incentives built into that.
What's the cost of living out there?
Not high, I would imagine. Dave lives up there in the chat, man. So Dave, let me know. I mean, I wouldn't imagine. I know the cost of living actually is probably kind of high in Montana because I mean, listen, there were some nice places in Bozeman, man. When I went up there for the playoff game, I was talking to some Uber drivers. Man, there's some really, really expensive parts of the city to live in, like shockingly. So I don't know which city has the higher cost to live in, but I would imagine it's not high in Fargo, North Dakota. No offense to those people, but I can't imagine.
I mean, that's you're winning, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, that plays a lot into it as well. I think, you know, when you're trying to think like an adult. But anyway.
I mean, so Dave in the chat, who is my guy up in Fargo, he said that Vegan wanted the job after Bowl left, but they went with Kleiman instead. And that's why he left with Bowl to Wyoming. So he did want the job initially. They just passed him, which could play into it because one, it could be a job he wants, or two, he could say, why would I take it when y'all didn't want me? I'm just going to beat y'all with the team I built now.
Yeah, you had a chance. Blah, 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 blah.
You got to put here's my take, and we'll wrap it up here. Put a quiet feeler out to Vegan. If he's interested, you consider making the move potentially. If things go way south, I don't think they'll lose both games, but it's a possibility because it's two good teams. If he says no, you wait it out. You have to at this point, because I don't think if you're not going to hire Vegan, I'm thinking around the FCS, I don't think there's an immediate upgrade.
Well, and you got to have somebody that's familiar with the area, man. It's like, you can't go get somebody that's an assistant at Miami to come there. I mean, he'd probably come, but you got to have somebody that's familiar with the area. I think somebody that's familiar with the conference, the brand of ball, because recruiting is going to play a lot into that as well. But, hey, if the program wants to reach out to me, for me to reach out to them, because I have no, ties to it, I'll give them a call if y'all want me to. Just let me know.
North Dakota State, if y'all are watching. Coach, man, our other game of the week, a top 10 matchup, it was never in doubt. Montana, 34 unanswered points in a blowout win over Sacramento State. Coach,
I lost this one.
Montana's head coach became the Big Sky Conference's all-time winningest coach in Bobby Howell on Saturday night. It was the 5th consecutive win for the Grizz, 2nd win over a top 10 opponent this year. Coach, is it just me, or can you believe, like, it just blows my mind that this is the same team we were talking about being one of the most overrated teams in the country at the end of September?
Man, it's funny, man, but I feel a connection to them because everybody was counting them out, and the same way with us. Yeah, I spit it back to us. The same way with us, everybody was counting them out. And then they come out in a game that I went against them. I can admit it. They run for 3 football fields. That's impressive. And then you have close to 600 yards in total offense. That's putting a statement out, man. That's saying, hey, we're here and we're not here to play. And to think, like you said a couple months ago, we all left this team for dead, man. Shout out to those kids, those coaches kept fighting, got that thing turned around. So it'd be interesting to see this run that they make in the playoffs.
Listen, Montana showed last night that if they can get good offense with how good their defense has been playing, they're going to be hard to beat. I know people are pissed because I have them ranked 2nd, Coach, in my top 25, and people are still pissed I don't have Furman at number 2. Man, when Montana plays a complete game, I don't know if there's a team behind them that's going to beat them right this second. And I don't know how you feel, Coach, because people keep pointing to that loss against Northern Arizona in September as the reason you can't put them number 2. To me, I feel like early in the season, I give teams I don't know if this is the right word, a mulligan almost, because the team now is not the same team that lost to Northern Arizona in September. So I can't say they can't be number 2 because they had one bad weekend at the end of September on the road. I think right now, the way this team is playing at this current second on November 6th, 5:39 p.m. Central Time, it's the best. It's the 2nd best team in the country right now.
From September to now, man, teams make huge strides. And some teams that we thought were really good in September aren't really good right now. So it's just a reverse. But, this team, with that being their only loss, I think that, you have it right. Watching them versus my guys up in Idaho, I'm like, whoa, okay. And I said it last week, if this defense comes out and plays the way they play, that, SAC would have a hard time, but SAC would still win. No, I was wrong. This defense made me a believer that, when they come out and they play the way they played in the first half versus Idaho in this game right here, they're going to be a tough out, man. They're going to be a tough out. And McDowell is playing really good.
Oh, yeah. The offense put up 549 total yards this weekend, Coach, against a good Sacramento State defense.
SAC beat a Power 5.
Yeah, Stanford, 30-23.
Beat a Power 5. So
I mean, 218, 2 passing touchdowns, and 83 rushing yards for McDowell, plus that 97-yard touchdown to Keelan White was the longest touchdown pass in school history from the 3-yard line, and they allowed 268 total yards and 3.9 yards per play. Coach, 11 of the 13 drives for Sacramento State went for 35 or less yards.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because I thought for sure they would be able to at least, muster up something consistently on the ground, maybe get in trouble every now and then when they got behind the chains and had to throw the ball. But I just thought, rush-wise, they would be able to do something. And Montana said, nah, that ain't happening. That ain't happening.
It was a masterful performance, man. I'm interested to see how Montana. Listen. That Montana State game is going to be insane. The final week of the year, man. I cannot wait to see how those teams match up.
Shout out to that kid K White, man. 2 catches, over 100, average 50 yards a catch.
I'll take that.
That's big time. That's big time.
I'll take it, Coach. The upset of the week. I'll be honest. Listen, I like to think I know football. There wasn't a single bit of me that saw this coming at all. Not even a little bit. Nicholls State stuns number 8 Incarnate Word 45-32. And Coach, I cannot believe I'm saying this. Because of the forfeit from Northwestern State, Nicholls can actually clinch the Southland Championship in an auto bid to the playoffs with a win over Lamar next weekend.
Which no one saw coming. And that forfeit is going to stand as far as the win. I think some people had some questions about that with another team. Would it, count? Because it kind of, someone was saying that it wasn't right, that, they got that, yada, yada, yada. But,
it was, I mean, Nicholls is 4-4, Coach, but 5-0 in conference now.
So, I mean,
I don't even know how that supposedly, I don't know why you want just to add the win on the overall record, but apparently they can't. So they're 4-4, but 5-0 in conference.
Yeah, to that week or whatever, which makes no sense. I mean, everybody knows what's happening, but I mean, okay, cool, we'll wait it out. But yeah, man, I did not see this coming, man. I did not see this one coming.
No, I mean, they dominated them. I mean, Coach, like I'm looking here,
almost 40 minutes of time of possession.
Yeah, it was never even close. I mean, 330 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. Jalen Spears, career high 160. Colin Guggenheim, 153 and 4 rushing touchdowns this weekend. And they were down 10-0 in the first quarter, Coach, and they scored 24 unanswered points, forced 3 turnovers, including that game-clinching interception. I mean, I got to see Nicholls in person this year, Coach. I got to see him play against Sac State. I didn't think they were a terrible team, but man, like this is we saw a whole nother level. And I think a lot of those issues people were ignoring for Incarnate Word because they just kind of kept squeaking by. They came to bite them this weekend. And it showed that team was not complete. There were some underlying flaws that just haven't been exposed yet.
What's that running back for Nicholls' last name again?
Guggenheim.
Okay. Who'd you call to get the pronunciation on that one?
Oh, no. Listen, I can pronounce that one. But look, Coach, he wears number 19 and wears a neck roll for a running back. So you know he's a bad dude.
They just have RB, but we know it should be FB
yes.
by his name. But, Incarnate Word, like you said, man, the turnover bug. And, you've got to muster up some type of running attack to take the pressure off of, your QB and your O-line up front. When you're talking about just sitting back, dropping it back 53 times, letting that thing go. And that's not the strong point of your team up front, protection-wise, which I don't think that's the strong point of their team, not to be dropping back 53 times. And you're not moving the pocket. You're not moving the launching point. I think at times, when those guys get tired, that's when those things happen, and try to get those things out your hand. And, you just I ain't got it no more, just getting rid of the ball. But to give up almost 40 minutes of possession, I guess at that point, you're really putting yourself behind the 8 ball,
Yeah, I get it because it is more fun to watch on TV. This evolution of college football where people just like to throw it around the yard, the evolution of the spread offense. Everyone wants to be that high flying, exciting team. I'm telling you Coach played, I played, people in the chat have played football. There is no better way to take the soul of your opponent than running for 300 yards and having the ball for 40 minutes. I mean, even if the team across from you is a better team, they're not going to be up for that game. Like mentally, that is one of the toughest things in college football is to watch someone do that to you because you feel horrible. Like you feel so helpless. It is the equivalent of getting bullied. It's true bullying.
Nothing you can do about it. And every time they run it, they're getting 6 yards. There's nothing you can do about it. That's tough. And then, playoff wise, man, UIW's got to clean up the penalty situation. Those things come back to bite you, man. And we had that same talk today with our guys. When you're talking playoff football, man, 15-yarders, 10-yarders, those things loom huge, even though you may not think they are or that big in the moment. But, you're talking about picking up a first down and you got a holding penalty and you went from a first down to now you're looking at 3rd and 20. That's tough. But as you start playing better teams, those things really come back to bite you. And, I'd say 12 for 118 plus the 3 turnovers, that didn't help the cause. Even though it was still a tight ball game, that didn't help you create space for yourself. And hats off to Nicholls, man. 300 yards on the ground. That's big boy ball right there.
Yeah, shout out to Spears and Guggenheim for their games, man. But
Guggenheim.
Yeah, Coach, I'm interested in your opinion because you got a different perspective than me on this, especially with playoff seeding rankings. Incarnate Word is one of the most interesting cases in the FCS right now. They're 7-2, 1 FCS loss, but they have 0 ranked wins, only 2 wins over teams with winning records, and a subpar strength of schedule. Does this team have what it takes, even if they win out, to still should they be an at-large bid team, and should they be a top 25 team right now?
I'll tell you that they will. They will get an at-large type thing situation because I think the committee is going to look at the fact that they are an exciting type of team, as far as being able to put up points. And they would create some different matchups. But the thing about them that they may not want is getting that at large, man, and having to go up to those places that we were just talking about. Yeah. And their style of ball and that weather in December don't really mix.
If you're giving up 330 yards to Nicholls, no offense to Nicholls.
I know where you're going.
Oh my God. I don't want to see this team play Montana State, South Dakota State, or one of those teams. They're going to run for 500 yards if they want to.
Oh, because they know you don't like it, and that's what they're going to do.
It's going to be bad.
Man. It's tough. It is tough to go out there and tackle somebody consistently in the cold weather, man, and they're just coming at you. It's tough, man. Nobody really wants to do it. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody really wants to do that.
It's tough to tackle a guy named Guggenheim with a neck roll 23 times on a Saturday afternoon in the heat.
And he just keeps coming.
Yeah, I mean, he's built like a lot. Coach, I was taking pictures at the Nicholls game, and he updated his number. I want to say he had a different number, so I didn't know who he was at first. And so I looked at the roster. I thought he was a linebacker. The kid is built like a middle linebacker with the neck roll, and he's got like the eye black and everything. Like he's out there looking like a middle linebacker playing running back. It's unbelievable. But yeah, exactly. But Coach, man, real quick before we get into top 25. The CAA, Chaos Athletic Association is what I'm calling it from now on. A 5-way tie for first place right now, Coach. After Elon shocks Delaware 33-27 this weekend. First loss. Yeah, first loss for them. UAlbany beat William and Mary. Villanova continued to roll over New Hampshire. And Richmond had a bye week, still sitting there at 5-1 in conference. Coach, you have a 5-way tie right now. How many bids do you think this conference gets in the FCS playoffs this year?
I would say Delaware and one more, man. But after that Delaware thing, man, I just, I don't know now. I was kind of riding them and thought that would be, they're automatic once they did what they had to do in, that game. But now it's just, are they lucky to get one?
Well, no, I mean, I think I don't think they might get one seed. I think maybe one seed.
I mean,
yeah,
one seeded.
Yeah, for bids, I think you're probably right now. I'm at 3. I think Delaware gets in the gets in the playoffs. UAlbany gets in the playoffs, and Villanova gets in the playoffs.
So you think right now where UAlbany is, they've done enough if they don't win one of their next 2?
Well, the thing that helps Albany, Coach, to be honest with you, is they play Stony Brook and Monmouth the final 2 weeks of the season.
I'm not counting the Stony Brook. Nothing against them.
Yeah,
but
so I think they're going to win out. Just because here's where you're looking at. Villanova faces Delaware on the 18th.
I'm pulling Villanova up right now. So one of them is good.
Yeah.
One of them don't get in, right?
Well, no, I think they both have a resume to get in because they're both sitting at 7-1 in conference. As long as they win this upcoming weekend and they're at 8-1, I think they'll be okay. If you're only sitting at 2 losses FCS, I think they both get in. The crucial one, though, is Richmond hosts Elon next week.
So you think Villanova's good with Townsend? You think that's a lot?
Yeah, I think they'll beat Townsend. Just okay. Personally, I think they're going to beat Townsend. So, I mean, let me pull up my listen, man, I got like a whole Excel sheet for playoff bids and stuff that I've been working on in my top 25 ballot. So I got all the data we need on this one. So, Coach, the reason I give Villanova and Delaware, they're both sitting at 7-1 right now in the FCS. Both of them have ranked wins on their resume too. I think they both get in. Even if they both win this upcoming weekend, they go in 8-1 in the FCS, and one of them ends up possibly 8-2. Yep. They'll be okay. I think they'll get in. Now, the curious case is Albany. I think is the only one that possibly gets a seed, and I'll tell you why. They're 7-1 right now, 7-3 overall, 2 close FBS losses early in the season, and because of the Hawaii exception, they get to play 12 games this year as an FCS program. So they could be 9-1 going into playoffs, 9-3 overall. And right now they have 2 ranked wins on their resume and a top 30 strength of schedule.
And they got Stony Brook this week.
And Monmouth the next week. I think those 2 are wins. I think they could sneak into the 8th seed.
Oh.
Depending on what happens with the MVFC Big Sky, of course, but that's the only team I think is competing for a seed. I think those 3 are locked for the playoffs. So the curious case is how the committee is going to judge Elon. So, Coach, I know you probably didn't hear about it yet. Sam Herder interviewed the playoff committee chair just about some behind the scenes. They count top 25 wins as top 25 at the time.
Oh.
Which, in that case, Elon's sitting at 5-4. Not a great record, but now Elon has 2 top 5 wins on their resume. If they find a way to win out and go 7-4 with 2 top 5 wins,
they got to get in, don't they?
I think they find a way to sneak in. They have to beat Richmond this weekend, though, and they have to win their final game, which is, hang on, let me pull it up. I don't know who they play. They'll beat Hampton. So as long as they beat Richmond this weekend, I think they find a way to sneak in, and it's going to piss some people off because 7-4 CAA. Coach, I know you're not tied into the FCS gossip as much as I am. We're trying to get you there. People hate the CAA right now. They think the conference is overrated. They don't think the teams are very good. So the fact that a 7-4 CAA team is going to find a way to sneak in is going to set off some MVFC Big Sky fans in a bad way. But I think when you're looking at it objectively, based on what the committee looks for, I think Elon finds a way to get in.
Oh, Elon. Okay. Well, I guess we'll see because they have a pretty good, a pretty easy path, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at Elon, Coach. So they're 5-4. They got a loss to Wake Forest, which doesn't really count, obviously. The loss to Gardner Webb is improving every week as Gardner Webb has a chance to win the Big South now. They have a loss to Central, North Carolina Central, who is a top 10 team right now. They have a loss to Villanova, who's a top 15 team right now, and they could get a ranked win over Richmond this weekend. I think that I know I hate this, and I really hate this because I get why people get aggravated. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to who has the best loss on the bubble, and they got some damn good losses, as crazy as it sounds.
But I get it, and I get all upset when it comes to March Madness, when people start talking about, like me and you a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about what's a good loss, what's a bad loss, that kind of thing. But when you say, as a top 25 right now, that puts a lot of people in a bind, but it helps them in this situation, Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think if I had to say, I think 3 teams in right this second. If Elon wins out, I think they sneak in for 4. As where I'm kind of sitting with the CAA, but I think they have 3 guaranteed.
4. So you don't think any of the other conferences is going to push the needle enough to where this bubble?
Okay, SoCon is going to get Western Carolina, is going to get Furman, obviously, and then it's going to come down to Chattanooga and Mercer. I think Mercer gets in if they can win out, but the problem is you have Chattanooga at 7-4 as well, who plays Bama this weekend for that final game. So I'm putting them at 7-4, obviously, because they're not going to beat Alabama. And Chattanooga right now has a loss to North Alabama, not a good loss.
Good. Yeah,
they got a ranked win over Samford. They got the head-to-head over Mercer, but that's it. I think that North Alabama loss is going to hurt them.
Yeah, because that didn't age well at all.
No, I know it's a week 1 loss, but you can't lose that game if you're going to be on the bubble.
Yeah,
that's
just don't work for you.
Mercer, I think, will still find a way to get in. I think, who do they play the final 2? I think they play Samford this weekend for their final game. They beat Samford, they should be in my opinion. Let me pull up their schedule. They're sitting at 7-3. If they get to 8-3 with a win over Samford, they're going to be fine. One of their losses is to Ole Miss. They have a loss to Furman, a loss to Chattanooga. They got that win over Western Carolina. I think they have enough to get in at 8-3.
What about the Pioneer League? And I know
they're only going to get one bid. They're only going to get one bid. The auto bid. They ain't going to sneak anyone in. MVFC is interesting, Coach, because you got South Dakota State's going to get in, and I think they're going to clinch the auto bid. You have South Dakota, who's I think is a lock right now. Then you have Southern Illinois, Northern Iowa, Youngstown State, and North Dakota State. And North Dakota. That's 7 teams that are still in contention for the MVFC. I think it's going to come down to what happens over the next few weeks with that one. I think South Dakota State, South Dakota are locks right now. Southern Illinois, I'm going to put in right now.
They're interesting because if they win out, where do you see them falling?
They'll be in a large bid. I think the seeds right now, Coach, you got South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Montana State, Furman, South Dakota at Albany might sneak into one. And then what? You got one more you want to throw in there? Because you don't have Central there. Who are they going to give it to? Maybe. Okay, I've heard Austin Peay thrown around a lot because Austin Peay could finish 9-2. So possibly them. So there's a race for that. And I think you possibly, if like Youngstown or UNI win out, like if Youngstown upset South Dakota State, they might be in the conversation.
So, and then when you go back, all right, and I'm looking at the Salukis here. If the Salukis win their next 2, right?
They're a seed locked up. Okay. Not even a conversation. If Southern Illinois wins out, they're a lock for a seed. I think they'll probably still be in contention anyway, but we'll have to see for them because I think, because I think with Sac State's loss this weekend, I don't think you can give them a seed, which is why I think it'll be South Dakota State, Montana State, Idaho, Furman, Montana, probably Southern Illinois, and then you throw in Albany in there. I don't think anyone else would be. I'm not giving North Dakota State a seed, so I think you could possibly throw in another MVFC team. I don't see a SoCon team other than Furman getting it. Listen. If they're already going to riot if they let Elon in the playoffs, if they give 2 CAA team seeds, Jesus Christ, FCS Twitter is going to burn down. I'm telling you, listen, we'll have to do a whole bracketology show because we could go on for days about this. But Coach, shifting over real quick, your wide receiver of the week, man, there were some really, really good options, man. But who did you go with for week 10?
Oh man, Um, it's funny you were just talking about the team, man. Cam Thomas there, Austin P had himself a day, man. 10 for 204, 2 touchdowns, long of 54 yards. They pull off a win that they needed to stay alive in your bracketology conversation. Averaging 20 yards a catch. Anytime in college football you can go for 200 yards receiving, man, you're doing something. So Cam Thomas, man, fly zone. Keep making it scary hour, brother. Way to go. Congratulations.
Out of Birmingham, redshirt sophomore too, because we've had some underclassmen out here.
Which is scary.
Yeah, I like it. I like when the underclassmen show up, but man, shout out to Cam. We'll get the graphic. We'll get in touch with you to get you those gloves. But Coach, man, wrapping it up here. Biggest winners, biggest losers of the week, man. We'll start with the winners. Give me your biggest winners of week 10.
Man, look here. I don't even know why you asked, but I mean, since you asked, I'm gonna just go ahead and say, man, my biggest winner, man, is Alcorn State. Not just winning, but our kids played extremely hard. Sent a message from the beginning. They really, really locked in and stayed focused in the moment, man. Biggest winner, down our way is us. I think overall, FCS, man, got to give a shout out to my guys up in Idaho. They went on the road. I think it was a must-win type situation. They did their thing. So Alcorn and Idaho, my biggest winners. Biggest loser, I got a couple. Incarnate Word, because we talked about that. Grambling, because they had a chance to still be in and control their own situation, down our way. I think that's a one that they'll look back and say got away from them, and we'll keep it, here. MEAC, you got to say Howard, man. Howard talked all summer about how they were going to match NCCU, and it wasn't going to be a tie this year. They were going to take it outright. And then you go and get bullied up at South Carolina State, 27-24, and give up a South Carolina State offense that we all seen a few times. You give up almost 500 yards to them. And out of the 500, B, here's a stat for you. Only 19 of those were passing.
Yeah.
You can't make that make sense, Howard. You can't make that make sense to me, man.
Oh, God. You know what the crazy part is? The leading running back, true freshman.
Man. Look here.
A true freshman. I mean, hang on. Let me pull it up real quick. Let me make sure I get his name right. Jawarn Howell, 283, 3 touchdowns as a true freshman. Averaged almost 11 yards per carry this weekend.
Just turn around and hand it to him, man. And they threw for 19 yards.
Coach, they went 3 for 11 for 19 yards and 2 picks.
I didn't know about the picks, but they threw for 19 yards, man. At some point, man, Howard, you just got to get the refs to throw the penalty, man. Put 12 people in the box. Do something. You can't just let them run the ball like that. 27 times, one guy. You just can't let that happen, man.
That stat line makes me want to throw up. 3 for 11 with 2 picks.
19 yards.
Oh,
and they won.
Hey, shout out to Buddy Pugh. I'll make him an honorary winner for me. Shout out to Buddy. Got to get one of those wins. Had to ruin someone's season because why not? I think Furman, winner, man. Anytime you can clinch an auto bid, clinch another conference championship. Of course, them Alcorn State Braves, taking control of the SWAC West this year. And then I got to give it to Montana, man. Another top 10 win, a dominant win, and Nicholls State, of course. I mean, Jesus, man. Shout out to them. A huge, huge win during that game. Biggest losers, Tennessee State. God, I want to throw up saying that. Coach, with SEMO gets upset by Robert Morris this weekend. Tennessee State had a chance to be in a 4-way tie for first, chance to win the Big South OVC. a 14-point loss to Charleston Southern.
Yeah, man. And we were just saying how they were up and coming, in control of it, the whole nine. And it just all comes crash and burn, man. But, we always say, man, any given Saturday. But if you say you are who you are, you got to guard against that, man, and you got to grind those wins out. You got to find a way.
As an offensive coach, this is going to make you upset today. I wanted to make you upset.
It can't be worse than 3 for whatever.
Oh, just wait. This is the entire offense. This is the entire offense. Charleston Southern scored 35 points, had 7 total first downs, 108 yards rushing, 84 yards passing, 9 for 19 with an interception, and only had 192 yards of total offense and 8 punts, 3 for 13 on third down, but scored 35 points.
That's about as bad as it can get, man. Can you imagine that bus ride home looking at that stat sheet?
Oh, as a defensive coach, you probably are like, "How did we lose this game?" As an offensive coach, you had to ride a different bus home. You couldn't ride home with the defense.
No, man. That's a tough meeting room that next day, man. That's a tough meeting room the next day.
So they're out of the playoff race. It just makes me so mad. Another someone said in the chat, "How's that even possible?" I still don't know.
I was 3 of 11 for 19 yards and 2 picks in a win. How's that possible?
I really don't know. I think another biggest loser, Incarnate Word. Obviously, I mean, I don't know what. I don't know where you go from here. And then I think it's a combination, like you said, Southern Grambling. I mean, the way Southern lost is not. I mean, at least be competitive in the loss. It was never even competitive at some points. And then Grambling, all the hype. At one point, coach, going into the game against you guys, everyone was handing them the West. Everyone was handing Miles Crawley SWAC Offensive Player of the Year, and it has just consistently trended down for them, and they're struggling offensively now. The defense was never good enough to hang in, and so it's kind of unraveling for Hugh Jackson and those guys. And then another one, man, Texas Southern. God, man, I've not seen a team lose more games that they played better than their opponent in a season.
Let's just hope it happens one more time.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's just I got to wonder where the focus is in that locker room.
I think after not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before versus Southern, I don't know how they got back up and was competitive in this game. So, again, hats off to those kids and that staff for getting ready, because after losing that Southern game the way they did, I did not see this outcome. And then to go back and look at it and then look at the stat line, it's just like, what am I missing? What am I missing? But let's just hope it continues one more week, and then we'll start rooting for them again, man.
Then the final two biggest losers, the coaches poll, because Incarnate Word is still top 10.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And then Youngstown State's not even ranked. They're 10th in my poll.
Unbelievable. And then you gave my boys Western Carolina all that flack at the beginning, and this is where we are right now. Unbelievable.
I just don't know what we're doing, coaches poll. And then the SWAC press conference is my final biggest loser. Coach, did you get to listen today?
I didn't get to listen today, man. We've been moving around trying to get things done.
Oh, man, we got to do better.
Fill me in, man.
We got to do better. The final question of the day to TC Taylor was, have you talked to GJ Kinney have you gotten advice from him on recruiting?
What?
And TC said, can you repeat the question? And he was like, and then he proceeds to say, have you talked to the Texas State head coach because of how big their offensive line is, how talented they are, how he had to flip a roster similar to you? Did you talk to him at all about recruiting advice?
Did he know that TC and those guys had like the number 1 or number 2 recruiting class last year?
Like you could just tell, like, it just caught me off guard. But I was sitting there listening to the end because I wasn't able to go today because I have something in the mornings now on Mondays, and I was like, what do we do? Like, Coach, I understand, like, kind of I get where he was going. You just got to word it better, because it was like, did y'all meet at midfield? It was like, bro, I appreciate you putting 77 on us. Can you send me some of the players?
Yeah, what you doing? Talk to me.
And especially because I don't think people realize how many recruiting battles you guys are in with some of those group of 5 schools.
Oh, man, every day. I mean, you know, even with the junior college kids, you offer, they put it out on Twitter, and then 10 minutes later, they've got an offer from South Florida. They got an offer from, you know, someone of that conference kind of thing. And it's just it's a double edge for us, because we've got to recruit to come in, and then we've got to recruit to stay. So it's a never ending deal, for real, for real.
And shout out to Merch Pack. He said he said he's got merch for both of us. If we come to Tally. So, man, listen, guys, I already said, especially if Alcorn's there, I'm gonna be in Tally, and listen, me and Coach Fred are coming, and we're gonna do a live show, especially after the win.
Pin this, because we want to make sure we remember.
Yes. Oh no, I know my guy Merch Pack is good.
Wait a minute, what is it though? What is it? Because I can't rock what you got on.
Well, no, he makes different merch, so he'll probably get you some Alcorn stuff. I know you can't. Yeah, Coach can't be on the sideline wear the FAMU hoodie. Oh man. And real quick, man. Shout out to Mr. Dwayne. Do you think if FAMU is not going to the Celebration Bowl, they'd make the playoffs? Yes, they would. A 10-1 SWAC team is definitely. I mean, they're what, 10th in the coaches poll.
So you think some team gets to the SWAC championship game, wins? You think FAM gets the nod to get in?
No, playoffs start the same weekend as the championship.
I mean, yeah, so I mean that wouldn't be possible. But if it was a situation of where,
if it was a situation where they could, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but sadly, that's not how it works. It's okay. He said just some black college football gear, so we'll definitely take that. We'll rock it. But yeah, you listen, guys. I'm gonna talk to my guy. We'll see. Well, I might not talk to Josh. Well, I have to find if Alcorn wins, we can't ask Josh, because that's the FAMU. That's my guy at FAMU. Probably gonna help us much if Alcorn wins. But me and Coach will do something after the game for sure, after the SWAC championship down in Tallahassee. But guys, that's a wrap on the show, man. Listen, hit the like button, subscribe, check out the website si.com/FCS. Congrats to my guy, Coach Fred. Big win. I'm hoping Monday, after a big win on Sunday, I'm hoping he gets to rock the division championship hat on the show. Hey, I'm gonna have to get me one to rock on the show as well, man. So we'll have to get that hooked up before the show. But guys, for Coach Fred, for myself, for the Bluebloods, for FCS Football Central, we are out for right now.